Welcome to She Says with your host, Stephanie Regalado. She Says guests share stories from their challenges to successes and, most importantly, the journey of womanhood woven alongside the collaboration of sisterhood. From self, love, friends and family, to hot topics, career, and world views, Stephanie and her guests discuss matters with utmost openness and honesty. So let's hear what she says. Here's Stephanie.
Hello, welcome to She Says. I'm Stephanie Regalado, your host, and I have Tamara Williams with me. She's been a darling in my heart for 9 months now.
Yeah, not very long, but
long enough.
Yes.
We've been colleagues at Bozzy Media through Spokane Quarterly and Living Magazine. You've been an account executive for us, a job that you hadn't necessarily done in the past.
No,
but you.
No, my whole intent was to go on and be a professional writer and freelance and all of that. And I fell into this job because I was unemployed for a good solid year, and after graduating from college, and I was floundering a little bit and living with friends in their basements.
It's everyone's dream.
Right. And when I got the job with Bozzy, it kind of opened a lot of doors for me, and life just kind of took off from that point.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited. It's amazing because it took a big life shift for you to end up where you are, as so much of our life does. You went through a divorce after your 4 kiddos grew their wings and flew the coop, and then you wondered what were you going to do next?
Yeah, I moved to Arizona, and it was like almost a from the gut reaction of just leaving town and not having to deal with all the aftermath of what goes through when you go through a divorce.
Yeah.
But I went, and in hindsight, I can say that I ran away. But I wanted a fresh start,
right? And
I wanted to be where I didn't get asked about what was going on and that, and so I created a different life, but very much who I was, and was a hairdresser. So I owned a hair salon on the north side of Spokane for a little over 10 years, and when I moved to Arizona, I went back into hairdressing again, and I had a fantastic boss. His name was Trini Fergasso, and he was insightful in knowing that this was not my passion anymore, and encouraged me to go to school. And the way he said it was so funny because he's heavily accented, and he said, "Tami, you do not love this business anymore. You need to do what you love. Go to school." And so I did. I applied at ASU thinking I was going to go into the Walter Cronkite School of Mass Communication and Journalism, and actually did get into the school, but after one semester knew it was not what I wanted to do, was be a journalist, but I still wanted to get my degree. Yeah. And
you graduated 4 years later?
Yes, so I was a hashtag freshman at 50, graduate at 54.
Wow.
Yeah, from Arizona State.
Oh my gosh. So that's the thing, though. So many of us, when we're so focused on our kids and our families and the careers at the time, and when we have a major shift or clearing, especially when your kids are gone and this empty house, and then you end up not even having a spouse beside you, that's a very big, wide clearing. You get to kind of get scrubbed down to your bones and ask yourself, what do I want to do? Who am I? What are my true passions?
Yeah, I mean, when I left Spokane, if I wasn't a wife anymore and I wasn't my kid's mother in the same capacity, who was I and what made me me? Yeah. And I had to find the answers to those questions. And I really thought it was interesting that I chose Phoenix as the place to land. And everyone asked me, how'd you choose Phoenix? And it was almost close your eyes on the map and pick. And I just wanted a place that was mostly, an easy flight home, because I had kids up here. They were all grown, but I still, loved my family and wanted to see them. But the Phoenix, has so many metaphors to it, the rise from the ashes. And that's really what I felt like I did, was I rose from the ashes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So you went to college, and for your
Well, I started off in journalism, and then I switched to linguistics because I thought, and it's funny because I went to an advisor to talk to her about, what to do, and I had already switched my major to linguistics, and she says, and I was struggling. It was really difficult. It's like taking Chinese. And so she says, why do you want to be a linguist? And I said, because it's smart. And she laughed. And she goes, you're smart. She goes, what do you love? And so she started questioning me. And she says, you need to be an English major. You love to write. You will write in every genre. You will be exposed to classes that will open your mind. And it really did. College changed so much in my life and the way I think about the world. And I did, in fact, my step-granddaughter is graduating in just a couple weeks from high school, and she's going to WSU, and I sat down and wrote her, turned out to be 5 pages, but it wasn't meant to be 5 pages, but I wrote her a letter about why it's important for her to start this and finish it, and how important it is for a woman, especially a woman, to get her education and to open up opportunities and to embrace the differences in the world and things like that. And one of the things, so I wrote down, there was 17 pieces of advice I gave her, and one of them was take a femme lit class, at least one. Yeah. My son was like, oh, you're going to turn her into a raging feminist. And I said, well, I kind of am. So anyway, but those feminist lit classes, what I wanted to encourage Taylor to see, or want her to see, is that those, when you look back at what those women before us accomplished and helped us get to, and how lucky she is to be a woman in 2018 with the privilege of going to college and getting her education and doing anything she wants. Absolutely.
And it's hard for us to think that it's not always been this way, that we've experienced and lived. I was just at the NABO events, the National Association of Women Business Owners. We had our big event on Friday, and I reminded everyone that NABO began with a group of women who owned businesses, but you had to have a male sign any financial documents for you. So if you didn't have a husband, that could be your son, or that could be your neighbor, whatever it was, it just couldn't be you. And that law passed, H.R. 5050, in 1988.
Crazy, isn't it?
We were all alive then. I was just like, wake up to really the reality of this. Sometimes it's hard when there's a distance, but I love that. Bring the femlit in and understand truly the pathway to here and what an honor and privilege it is, and how we can continue walking in that.
Yeah. One of my favorite classes was a Jane Austen class. I had 2 professors that team taught it, doctors Devaney Lucer and George Justice, and they were seriously the funniest duo ever. And I loved that class because I read every Jane Austen class or book, and it was fantastic to see how she was pretty covert, but yet really a feminist for her time. It was, I love Jane Austen. Anyway.
What do you say to other women who would consider, or maybe think, I wish I could go back and either finish my degree or go back to college from start and get a degree, but are worried about being with a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds or a whole host of other concerns?
Well, the funny thing is I tell this story. So people ask me all the time, what was it like to go to school? And I went to school. I went to classrooms, and I was very nervous. In the first 2 days, I didn't want to, all the time, really. But I never wanted to speak out loud in class, especially that first semester when I was really trying to get my bearings and stuff. But I would hide in the back of the class, and I had to take 2 semesters of Spanish, and because I didn't have it in high school, I didn't have a foreign language, and it was required for my cultural studies. And so I would sit in the back because I did not want to be called on, And but I also had a problem with feeling confident about my ideas compared to these young kids who really inspired me with how bright they are and how these ideas that come from and the opinions that come from their mouths were so encouraging that we do have a generation of kids who are bright and smart and wanting to succeed in life. And so college gave me courage. And to go back, it's scary at I would say don't think you're too old, though.
Yeah.
I like to joke and say that I was the oldest graduate at ASU ever had, but it's not true. I heard somebody that was 90 just graduated.
Yeah. People are not that.
But the educational experience itself, I wanted the college on campus experience, even though I knew my experience would be so different than that of a 20 or 18-year-old.
Yeah.
And on my graduation party, my kids came down for my graduation, and they asked me, "Mom, where's all your friends?" And I said, "Oh, I don't have any friends in college. I have acquaintances, and then I have my friends are my professors." So anyway, yeah.
I love that. So just do it.
Do it, and
Too much
don't be afraid to do
thinking
it. Yeah,
like
because
worst.
I was afraid because of my age, and I was afraid who would want me with no experience, but yet in employment. And I struggled with that afterward, but in the sense of confidence after I graduated. But I think you're way more experienced than you want to give yourself credit for the life experiences you've had.
Yeah,
and so I think employers start to look at that, and then they value that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about the graduation present that you gave yourself, which was an incredible act of torture and life experience and all sorts of things. So bear with us for about a minute, and we will be right back. And take a little peek at our sponsors who believe in us and believe in women in our community, and we really, the show wouldn't be possible without them, so thanks to them.
Welcome to Tom Sawyer Country Coffee.
Tom Sawyer Country Coffee only roasts the finest organic coffee for our signature blends. Enjoy a cup at our coffee shop and local businesses and organizations across the region.
I'm Tom Sawyer, and we choose the Pacific Northwest.
Last year alone, Avista customers saved over 53 million kilowatt hours of energy. Enough to power more than 4,000 homes for an entire year. Way to save, everyone. Way to save. Find your way to save at avistautilities.com.
What? You haven't been to the library lately? Stop in today and see that the library is more than books. Spokane County Library District facilities feature on-site technology, including Wi-Fi, computers, and printers, as well as free use of meeting rooms. The Library District offers events and programs for all ages, from story times to career development and employer classes to Social Security workshops. Our staff is well trained and happy to help. Find out more about your library at scld.org.
Hi, we are still sitting here. Thanks for taking a peek at our sponsors. Tamara Williams and I are talking about graduating from college at 54. You were almost the youngest until some 90-year-old came in and graduated.
You mean the oldest?
What did I say?
The youngest.
Well,
that's okay.
They're graduating them at later ages. Yes, the oldest. And so what did you give yourself for your graduation present?
Well, I watched the movie The Way, and as I was watching it, I realized I wanted to do that. I wanted to do something epic. I deserved it. It took me 5 years to get through college, really, because I started, I say I was a freshman at 50 because I was, but I was a freshman for 2 years. But I like the hashtag, you know. Anyway, I decided to walk the Camino de Santiago, and I wanted to do it alone. And my family was super supportive. My kids were really supportive, and my parents were very like, "What? You're going to do what?" Yeah. And it was something I'd never done, was travel alone, and I wanted to prove something to myself. But I read this book, and I'm not going to mention her name because I just couldn't stand her writing. But I was inspired by her journey, plus by the movie, and then. But yeah, she did things the way I decided to copy how she did it, and I really regretted it because within 1 week after starting. So, but anyway, I hadn't even been in Spain for 3 hours, and I got my cell phone stolen in Madrid. And it was really funny, but I ran after the kid that stole it. It was like a 7-year-old kid that stole it, and I ran after him, and he was trying to like act like nothing happened. I just took it right back out of his hand.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then just took back off and went over and sat down. But it scared me enough that I didn't venture out of within 3 blocks of my hotel for the next 24 hours before I had to get on the train and go up to Pamplona. And I was scared, so I didn't do anything. So I start this trek 2 days later, and so I took a train to Pamplona, then I took a bus to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, which is the border town of France at the French Pyrenees, and started the journey 2 days after I arrived. And I didn't know what I was doing. I just was kind of following the crowd, because there is a crowd. There's a lot of people. You start with a crowd, you build a family as you go.
Oh, wow.
So I have there's probably pictures that...
Do you just show up to this location to do it, or do you have to coordinate with people beforehand?
No, you just show up, but you do register as a pilgrim in the
Okay.
Oficina de Peregrino, and you sign up, like you just, so that they know you're on the trail.
Smart, yeah.
And then you collect a passport there. So every town you stop in, you get a passport stamp. So, and when you get toward the end, the last 100 kilometers, you have to have 2 stamps a day on your passport. Not your U.S. passport or country passport, but this is the passport for the Camino Pilgrim.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I just started walking, and I collected and your feet are brutalized, because you're not used to walking.
It's 500 miles.
500 miles, 790 kilometers.
How many hours are you walking a day?
Well, it depends on how far you're walking. So when I say I did the trip differently than I would have wished I planned it, because I was afraid. And so instead of staying in the albergues and just going with the flow every day, I had a reservation in a hostel every single day. So I had to go. I followed John Byerly's book and walked his thing. So it took 33 days to walk. And I was angry because I had followed this gal's her way. She didn't have advice. She actually just wrote about her experience, and then I followed her experience and was so mad that I did, because I had no spontaneity to the trip. And I actually was videotaping myself throughout the entire trip, the experience, and blogging, and then putting sometimes posts on my blog and on my Facebook. And I had this tantrum like 7 days into the journey, and my feet were just thrashed, and I had to leave friends that I had been making in a town because I had to be somewhere because my stuff was going to be there.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and so I had to be there, and if you don't show up, then they put the policio on you to find you. So I had to show up, and it really frustrated me. So at that point, I started to change my trip up, and I called the people that I had booked with and started changing things up and said, I want to carry my stuff this day, and da-da-da. So things started getting better, and I stayed in a few albergues, and that was a really great experience. But yeah.
How many people were in your traveling family?
So you make several families along the way, actually, because you rubber band. So you might be walking with somebody one day, but or you might want to walk alone the next day. And the Camino is supposed to just be what it is. So you just walk and you contemplate. And it's broken up into 3 parts. So there's the mind. Well, it's the body, the mind, and the spirit. So the body is getting used to walking that kind of distance, and it's fighting you. It's telling you can't do it. It's telling you your feet can't take another step. You've got major blisters. And the conversations at night always revolved around our feet. It's like, how many blisters do you have?
My gosh.
Do you have any, stuff to put on your...
And there's probably just absolutely no way to avoid that.
No way.
With that many miles.
Some people get lucky and they don't. I did know one person that never had a blister.
Wow.
I had blisters, but I pushed through and I did it, and I never didn't. I spent 1 extra day in Lyon, but the rest of the time I walked every day. So, and then the second part is the mind, and that's through the Meseta. And the Meseta is just like walking through the Palouse without any farmhouses. So it's just miles and miles and miles of the same scenery on dirt roads, and the rocks in the road. The texture of the roads really mess with your head because of your feet hurting. Yeah. So depending on how smooth the road was depending on how easy the day was. So, and you have the Meseta for almost 12 days, and so it kind of plays games with you. one day I walked along, and I was lonely. I hadn't seen anybody for hours, and I hadn't talked to anybody for maybe 24 hours or longer. And so I was really feeling lonely, and I'm single, and so during that time I was single, and I looked into, there was always sunflower fields everywhere, and I saw a field with one lone sunflower in it, and somebody had pulled the seeds out to put a frowny face on it, and its head was down, and I looked at it, and I stopped, and I just started bawling, and I was like, I'm going to be alone forever. No. And so what was really funny is it was a really tough day, and then I thought that town was never going to show up, and there was no towns out in this area. It was like that was the town you stayed in. Yeah. And I kept thinking, where's the town? And all of a sudden I round down this hill, and there's the town. But to get there, it's this extremely rocky, treacherous road down. To get there, I want to say it was the town of Hornitos. And as I walked into town, in the Plaza Mayor, there was a little cafe filled with all the people I had met in my little Camino family, and they're like, Tim! And they're so happy. And so that time of thinking I was so alone, it felt like, the universe was saying, you're never alone. Yeah. Yeah.
Whether they're right beside you or not, there's always a big community that will welcome you. And I love that. Now all I'm thinking about is my feet. What did you do to fuel yourself, and how did you carry water to get you through hours and hours and hours?
I carried a camel on my back. Okay. So I carried 2 liters of water a day. Okay. But there was towns in between. So you're never camping, and you're not like having to pack your food, because you would stop in a cafe. I mean, your first stop of the morning was always for café con leche. Was the best café con leche ever. Yeah. So it was. It wasn't a hard walk in the sense of physicality, other than getting used to walking that far. Yeah. Before you're at the halfway point, your body's used to it, and so it's just a matter of just getting up. And if the weather cooperates, it's actually a very joyful time. I was very aware of the self-indulgency of taking, 5 weeks to do something like this, and how most people would never get a chance to do it, and to have so much self-reflection. It was really a great thing to have that experience. But no, you never had to worry about packing food or anything. But I didn't lose a pound in Spain. I mean, I'm walking 18 to 22 miles a day, and I didn't lose a pound. And you know why? There's so much bread, and I couldn't find a vegetable in all of Spain, I think. It was like, I had a lot of wilty asparagus, and and mystery meat.
Just don't ask questions. Just
no,
put
northern
the protein in your
Spain,
mouth.
when you get up into the Galicia area region, the food was much better. Yeah.
What do you think? How did it change your life, do you feel?
Well, the biggest lesson I got out of it is that pain is temporary, and you can power through. Yeah. And probably the second thing is that you need very little in life to be happy, because people were offloading their backpacks every day, including myself. When I was carrying my pack, I'm like, I don't need this. Yeah. And you get rid of the things you don't need, because it's not important to your happiness. Your happiness depended that day on whether or not the rocks were smooth, or you had friends to talk to, or a beer to share with somebody. A cold beer at the end of the day was heaven. A comfortable bed to sleep in, and nobody snoring in your room, because you sleep in dorms in some of those albergues. So,
So I can't even remember how we started. If we talked that you in another major life transition.
I am.
That's probably one thing that you have no fear about.
No.
Totally changing up your life.
No, and so going back to getting my wallet or my phone stolen in Madrid, at the end of the trip, I spent several days in Madrid afterward by myself, going everywhere and not worrying a thing about totally anything. Free. So it brought a lot of bravery to my life. But yes, I've been in Spokane for 2 years now, back in Spokane, and I was ready for another change. I've been with Bozzy for less than a year, and I was just feeling antsy here, and decided to start looking for another job, and found a publication in Tacoma that I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
It's called Tacoma Living Local is the magazine I'll be working for, and I'll be starting the region there basically almost from scratch. It's an established publication, but it's in desperate need of an account executive over there, and I'll be working with just one other person and developing the region. So I'm super excited.
And you're taking off like wheels on the ground, heading out of here June 1st?
June 1st. And I'm driving a truck, which I would never have done. I mean, I looked at other aspects of moving, and I just didn't want to pay $2,000 to go to Tacoma.
Right.
And so I decided that I could do it. I could do this. And I have a girlfriend that's going to drive my car behind me, and and I'm driving a big old U-Haul.
I love that.
Hey, I'm from a trucking family. I should be able to
There
do
you
it.
go, absolutely. And you already have your new living situation figured out? And
I do.
You've got it all.
Yeah, I'm going to be living close to Chambers Bay, so I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to roll. I got my apartment rented out, which everything seemed to fall into place with this job. It was like it was meant to be, so...
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited for you. I'm super excited anytime someone is brave enough, has the courage to spread their wings and just take off. One thing I've always thought about if I've ever considered moving out of Spokane, it seems once you build up so much, that's hard to just start over like that. But you've been...
This is the second time.
Building and blooming, building. You plant, you bloom, you plant, you bloom. So I have no doubt, and I'm super excited to have a place to stay when I come over to the west
Yes, and you better.
I know. I know. So a lot of times I ask the question if your life was a snow globe and you shook it up and every piece fell down in the way you'd see it, but you've kind of done that multiple times at this point. Is there anything? What else what is something that you're missing in your life that you look forward to?
Well, I'm ready to be in a relationship. I've been in many ones, and ones that maybe weren't so really what I thought they were.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to be in a committed relationship again. I used to say I'd never get married again.
Yeah.
And I said it really for a long time because I didn't want to go through a divorce again. But I realized that your thoughts change over time, and that you should never say never, because just as soon as you think something won't happen, it will. Yeah. And so I'm ready to fall in love again and to embrace that and grow within a relationship, and knowing that the person I choose is not going to be similar to the ones I chose in the past. I've had lots of therapy to get over that. Yeah.
Well, it makes me tear up a little bit. I'm super happy and excited for you. I know how hard you've worked to get all of your integrity in line and having a peaceful existence, and you've been so goal-oriented and patient to do it the right way.
Well, I wouldn't say I was so patient.
Okay, patience is something.
But I mean, I wanted it all yesterday, always.
Yes,
but, you have no choice but to wait on timing.
Yeah, and all those stars are aligning for you.
Yes.
Super excited for you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you
and
for
sharing.
having me.
I kind of want to go on a walk, maybe just to the park tonight. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a 3-mile walk from my house. It's not 500 miles. But, and what an inspiration to all women, too.
Thank you.
I
even went with a little bit of Spanish,
Right.
So I was able to get around the country pretty well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. All right. Well, cheers to being fearless and being unstoppable and to what's next in your life.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today. We will see you next week.
She Says is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content.